This week, the estate version of the new Passat hits the road. Is this system the ultimate in in-car technology? And will you be one of the 100 UK Nissan Skyline drivers?
Are you one of those people who, when you're doing a crossword, insists on writing it all out very neatly, even though nobody else is going to see it? Have you ever been offered a job at Volkswagen?
I'm talking about attention to detail, obsession, the theme of the advertising campaign for the new Volkswagen Passat. The obsession theme would seem to have more than an element of truth when you reflect that the Volkswagen team behind the new Passat must have spent months perfecting the ergonomically designed damp and grab handles, or the lovely thick-rimmed steering wheel, or that solid thunk of the door closing. And don't we all just appreciate that right kind of soft rubber to line the coin tray? All minor details perhaps, but the plus points add up to create the award-winning success story the new Passat saloon is. But this is not the Passat saloon. Just arrived in the showrooms, this is the new Passat estate. This load-lugging version of the saloon should in theory be a great hit in the UK, if only because estates of previous Passats have always been big sellers. Unlike some estate versions I could mention, the variant back-end style looks naturally in proportion to the front. Its clean, cool lines may not shout fashion statements, but instead they ooze a kind of sophisticated modernism. It simply looks good.
But estate buyers will be far more interested on what's on offer inside, and they won't be disappointed. On paper, the Renault Laguna estate may have a far roomier load bay, but the Passat estate is actually wider and generally far more useful. And there's no fashionable, fancy curved end here. Volkswagen have remembered that most of the time you fill your boot with suitcases and big square boxes, and as a result, everything is extremely angular, so you can fit the maximum amount in.
Just look at the thought processes Volkswagen must have gone through to anticipate the needs of the estate user. There's a low-level floor, a wide opening, a protective covering for the bumper, a bright metal load bay lip shield. There's chromed load lashing points, slide rails to protect the carpet, 12-volt power sockets for portable fridges or whatever. And when you're ready to close the tailgate, you have twin handles to prevent your little fingers getting dirty.
Do you remember the days when the extra stiffening and suspension adjustments that were needed for estate cars meant they weren't as much fun to drive as their saloon sisters?
These days, manufacturers have found ways to keep the driving dynamics very similar from saloon to estate, and the Passat is no exception. The new 4-link front suspension and separately mounted springs and dampers give a very smooth ride. While the driving experience is not exactly thrilling, but it's certainly very willing.
I'm driving the 1.9 TDI Sport. Yes, a diesel, but this is a direct injection turbo diesel. It gives off 110 brake horsepower at 1900 RPMs. With performance like this, the days of the hopelessly sluggish oil burner are long since gone.
For real power freaks though, just wait a few months when the Passat estate will be available with the revolutionary VR5 2.3 litre petrol engine, or the 30-valve 2.8 litre V6 boasting 193 brake horsepower. Both of these will be available with a Tiptronic gearbox. File under wild and wicked sporting estates.
When putting the Passat's interior together, somebody obviously had a very good rummage through the Audi parts bin, which I must say is no bad thing. The interior has a very solid and expensive look and feel to it. There are cup holders galore, cubby holes everywhere, and what about these wonderful louvered vents?
It's comfortable to drive as well. The steering wheel adjusts in 2 directions, and there's an excellent ratchet-style height seat adjustment system.
Overall, the Passat estate is just as impressive as the saloon. It's extremely stylish and very practical, but there are a few flies in the ointment. It's a real shame that in the advertising campaign, Volkswagen made us look at obsession to detail, because on the estate, there's just a few little things that make it lose marks. First of all, the radio. It's too low down and you end up taking your eyes off the road too much to fiddle around with it. The fuel filler doesn't fit properly, and is it really meant to be this flimsy? The clutch footrest is at the wrong angle. The angle is a bit too steep for comfort. But all of those are just little niggles when you look at the Passat estate overall. The car is really a magnificent achievement that should worry the likes of Audi, BMW and maybe even Mercedes. For a starting price of just under £16,000, you get a solid, reliable and well-built estate with plenty of room that should experience excellent residual values. Let me leave you with this thought. This particular Passat estate has the new TDI 110 brake horsepower engine, independently assessed as the most fuel-efficient internal combustion engine ever installed in a production passenger car. And they've installed this engine in the most aerodynamic car in its class. The result? An astonishing 63 miles per gallon on the urban cycle. Less trips to the filling station and less chances for you to have to open your wallet. 12 across. A description of the new Volkswagen Passat estate and a term of farewell. Goodbye.
La voiture que vous voyez derrière moi a quelque chose de très spécial. Je ne veux pas parler de son moteur ni de son confortable intérieur. Non, elle a une connexion très très nouvelle.
Well, this is the part of the job I like, I think for obvious reasons. Stephanie Schroeder, how are you?
I'm fine, how are you? It's
Pretty
quite
good.
hot here, isn't
It's
it?
very hot for more reasons than you can imagine. Stephanie,
Yes.
you accosted us in the street and you said, hey, come over and look at our system. Talk us
Right.
through it. It's called Intel. What does it do? Why do you need it in your car?
It's not called Intel,
Oh.
it's the connected car PC. And this means...
But it's made by Intel, that's the manufacturer?
Well, yes, we do the technology. We give the technology and, well, the automobile industry is very, very, very excited about it, and many manufacturers interested, and Citroën were the first to really integrate it in a car. So it's a real PC integrated in a car.
Okay, now what does that mean in the real world? People hear a lot of stories about new technology. You climb into your car, it's a Monday morning. How can this system help you? What does it do to you? Talk us through it.
Oh God, it does everything. So I mean, for the moment,
Everything.
well, it does quite a lot.
Can we watch a movie? Oh, please!
Darling, do you mind if I check for emails or faxes from my office? Email, please. Inbox. Email 1.
Hello, Anne. Let's meet Monday morning at 8 a.m. sharp.
Oh no, I left the garage door open. Computer, please check it.
Performing security check. Alarm systems secure. Back door secure. Front door secure. Garage door open. Close it.
Yes, please.
Are we talking about a personal computer for your car?
Exactly, that's what it is.
All right, so at the end of the day, you've got your personal computer at home, you've got your computer at the office, and when you're traveling between home and the office, you've got the computer in the car.
Isn't it fantastic?
Well, I'm not so sure because I quite like the idea of getting away from the computer. Shouldn't you be allowed to have a little bit of spare time away from the computer?
For example, do you have kids?
No.
Okay.
I lied, I do.
Okay, so
Do you?
No.
Well, that's good, carry on.
Maybe I lied too. Anyway, I mean, you've got your kids, you're driving, you know you're going to drive for 6 hours and they're going to shout, yell, you make them sing, you make them play, you do whatever you can, but they don't keep quiet. Now they have their little display in the back seat. They put on their earphones and they watch a DVD film, or they play an educational game or something.
Okay, so it's for the that's an interesting
a real
thought.
Family thing.
It's for the passengers as much as the driver, if not
Right.
more so. Tell me also, you cannot use this system when you're driving along. There must be some cutouts.
Obviously, I mean, this is regulation in all the countries. So, I mean, for example, I put on a DVD with Pavarotti singing. The music's gonna continue playing, but if I pass a certain amount of kilometers per hour, I think it's 5 or 8 or something, depending on the country, and then the image stops.
Okay, so it's a television set as well, effectively.
Exactly, you can watch television as
All right.
well.
You've got your computer, you've got your television, music, obviously. You can email, you can link it in with the phone, you can do all that. But not when you're driving. That's the key thing. Not when you're driving.
When you're driving, you can always only work with still images and voice recognition things.
Sounds very expensive. What does all this cost to install in a car? What would it cost the average driver?
Not more than any PC. There isn't any reason that it should be more expensive.
Okay. It's not more expensive because it's on a much smaller scale and it's difficult to install in a limited space?
If everybody wants it, if there's a big demand, it's going to be quite cheap. And you know, the prices of microprocessors are going down, 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 down. Automobile is not the same.
Right.
So I think it's going to be affordable. It's going to really get into our normal lives.
So are we talking, could you install a system like this for maybe, I don't know, thinking of German marks, 3,000 marks, about £1,000, or would it be less than that?
I think.
Yeah. And what about availability in the UK? Will it be coming into Britain?
For the moment, this is a prototype we see there, and Citroën thinks that in the year 2000 they're going to be this kind of car in the streets.
Okay. One last question. Do you have any children?
No, I don't.
LTI, London Taxis International, are to take their new TX1 to America. Of course, home of the famous yellow cabs. It'll be the first time the two most famous taxi designs in the world will have competed on the same turf. Chairman Jamie Borrick says that there has been a lot of interest in British cabs from America. They propose setting up a small fleet in 2 American cities to see how the British design copes with conditions there. With this year's REC Rally upon us, SEAT have announced that Gwyndaf Evans will lead their challenge in the British Championship next year. This will further strengthen SEAT's strong position in the sport, having won the World F2 Rally class this year already. Motorsport is seen by SEAT as an important way to build on their aim to become the sporting brand within the VW group. Road cars such as the F2 Cupra Sport, launched at the London Motor Show, creates a link with the competition's success. Mitsubishi have shown a revised Challenger off-roader at the Tokyo Motor Show. The UK importer is pushing very hard to bring a car here as a competitor for the Land Rover Discovery, Vauxhall Monterey and Jeep Cherokee, which have been a huge success here.
So you have £50,000 to spend on a new car. You want something that's fast, that's safe, but maybe a little bit different. You'd like something that stands out in a crowd, but still remains understated. You want a genuine supercar. Well, look no further. This is the new Nissan Skyline GTR, and it is a genuine supercar. What was Nissan GB's main philosophy for bringing the Skyline GTR into the country?
Well, we've wanted to bring the Skyline into Great Britain for a long time, but there's been a change in the law recently. There's a new system called single vehicle type approval that has allowed us to bring the vehicle in with relatively few modifications, and so now we're very pleased to do so and delighted to be able to.
Who do you think are the main purchasers of a car like this? Admit it's going to cost £50,000. It's not a cheap car.
No, we've already had a lot of interest in the car actually. We've taken about 20 deposits already, and that's on the basis of not even having driven it, and in some cases not even having seen the car. We're finding people are a mixture of, many of them are entrepreneurs. They tend to be owning their own businesses. Some in the entertainment business, quite a few in the motoring trade as well. But quite an aficionado, if you like, buyership. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who actually gets into them.
The Nissan Skyline GTR is Japan's most celebrated performance car. It was created to compete successfully at the very highest level of production motorsport. The new model R33 Nissan Skyline GTR, which went on sale in Japan in 1995, is a potent evolution of its predecessor, with performance improved in every area.
How are you actually going to market the Skyline in the country?
Well, we're not going to advertise it. This is a car that speaks for itself in many ways. We don't think it needs advertising. So we're relying on, firstly, the press coverage and what the press write about it. And generally, they love the car, and that's been a great benefit for us. But also word of mouth. We've found that it does have such a reputation. It really is a cult car, that people talk about it, and that enthusiasm spreads amongst the car enthusiasts, and that's one of the main ways we think it'll be spread about.
So, what will the Skyline GTR cost you? Well, £50,000. Take it or leave it. And Nissan can only bring in 100 cars in the next 5 years, but they expect those cars to be all sold by the end of 1998, if not sooner. The car comes with a 3-year warranty, but don't rush down to your local Nissan dealer, because this car is being sold through just one dealership, racing driver Andy Middlehurst, based in St Helens.
Now Andy, you're going to be the sole distributor of the Skyline GTR. Tell us why you were actually chosen to bring the cars into the country and sell them.
Well, basically it started back in about 1994, after I was a Works Nissan touring car driver. And we started to race the Nissan Skyline GTR, and over the period of 3 years we've become pretty much an expert on working on them, and that led into bringing some in for personal import for potential customers. And because of our experience with the mechanical side and the sales side, and only 100 vehicles, it was a natural thing to do.
So there's only going to be 100 vehicles coming in to the UK, and you expect to sell all of those fairly quickly?
Yes, I think they will sell very quickly, and so there's 100, and there'll be a lot more people who will be disappointed.
Over 3 years, the Skyline development team spent more than 100 days at the 13-mile Nürburgring circuit in central Germany, completing several hundred laps. Nissan have been using the Nürburgring since 1985, and according to their senior development engineer on the Skyline GTR, they thought it was ideal for simulating open road conditions for a very high-performance car. There's nothing like it in the world. The car is packed full of features: four-wheel drive, active limited slip differential and four-wheel steering, plus all the usual safety features. And the car is astonishingly quick. 0 to 60 in 5.3 seconds, 155 miles per hour top speed from a 2.6 twin turbo producing over 280 brake horsepower. It delivers a very free revving car with smooth delivery of power right through the gears and a huge amount of torque. Stopping the car quickly shouldn't be a problem. The brakes are the same as those used by Formula One teams. It's certainly a very, very quick car. You get a real kick in the back when you floor the throttle. Surprisingly, it's not particularly quiet. There's a lot of noise from the rear tyres, which comes into the cabin. Now, my main concern about this car really is the price. At £50,000, it isn't cheap. And when you consider what else you can buy for £50,000, say Jaguar XK8, a BMW 8 Series, or a nearly new Porsche 911, that's where the comparisons really start to begin. But if you want something that's fun, that's safe to drive, that's excellent all round, and you want a Nissan, the Skyline GTR is the car for you.
Think about this for a minute or two. You go on holiday once or twice a year, a couple of times on an aeroplane. You have to go through this big rigmarole about your seating position, your seat belts, on takeoff and landing. They won't let you fly unless you stick rigidly to those rules. There's a little card that you have to read. And I think that's the way it should be, and that's the way it should be in your car. You do that in an aeroplane once or twice a year. You should be doing that every time you get in your car. And of course, you'll be driving your car hundreds, if not thousands of times during the course of the year. So just do a quick check every time you get in your car. First thing, of course, put your seatbelt on. The number one safety device. I mean, there's no argument about it. All the safety experts agree. The thing that's more likely to save your life in an accident in a car is this seatbelt. Not your airbag, not your side impact beam, not your four-wheel drive, your ABS. It's the seatbelt that will probably save your life. So wear it on every occasion. Also put the anchorage point of that seatbelt down as far as you possibly can, because in the unlikely event of you rolling a car over, there's less distance for your head to travel to the roof of the car, which has obvious, potentially lethal consequences if the seatbelt is close to your shoulder. You don't want your seatbelt up there. That gives you distance to travel. You don't want that. See that? That is a problem. You might think that's a humble mobile phone. In fact, that is the equivalent of a house brick flying around in the event of an accident. So don't have mobile phones hanging around. Just as on the airlines they tell you to put your bottles in the overhead bins, put your mobile phone in the glove box, or better still in the boot, because you shouldn't be using your mobile phone when you're on the move. They're wretched things anyway. They should never have been invented. Driving position, very, very important. I mean, you might think I'm a little bit too close to the steering wheel, but according to the instruction I've had from all corners of the world, from the States to mainland Europe to too many countries to mention really. Sweden is the other place where I was very surprised when the expert drivers always complained to me that I was too far away from the wheel. You don't want to be like this, Sterling Moss style. You don't want to be like this, like a little old lady either. You want to be in between the two, a good bend in your arms, a little bit closer to the steering wheel than you might think. Stretch your arms out like that, have your wrists resting on the top of the wheel, and they're about the right distance. The reason for that really is that you get much more leverage in your steering. Just do that as you're sitting in front of the TV now. You can get lots of leverage when the wheel is close to you, or the imaginary wheel is close to you. You don't get so much leverage, of course, if you're stretching your arms like that. A lot of accidents happen on country roads because people run out of leverage when they're actually trying to steer. And the closer you get to the wheel, the more movement you'll get in that steering wheel. The downside of that is you're a little bit closer to that airbag, and that could be potentially damaging, especially if you happen to be smoking a pipe at the time. So no smoking pipes, no drinking drinks when you're driving, certainly not out of hard cups or cans or bottles.
Next week, Mike drives the Japanese success story, that is the Suzuki Wagon R+, and we get behind the wheel of the Kia version of the Lotus Elan.